We love taking the show on the road, and today we're coming to you from the Statehouse in downtown Columbus. We're joined by two healthcare professionals who also happen to serve in state government, Representative Anita Somani and Senator Beth Liston. We asked them how they balance their roles and what their health priorities are as legislators. And we also talk about some of our favorite places in Franklin County, including restaurants. Are we fans of Jeni's or Graeter's? All that and more coming up on Health is Real.
Come on in, stay a while. Andrew Stinson here alongside Zach Watson. The name of the podcast is Health is Real from Franklin County Public Health. Coming to you today, not from Memorial Hall, but from the Statehouse here in downtown Columbus. Zach Watson, how's it going today?
You know, I'm feeling lawfully good. Lawfully good.
How long did it take you to come up with that one, Zach?
About 3 seconds.
Oh,
Low-hanging fruit, Andrew.
Well, we're really excited. We have two guests here today. We have Representative Anita Somani and Senator Beth Liston here. Thank you both so much for coming.
Yes, absolutely. We always enjoy talking to anybody who will listen, right?
Definitely. Happy to be here.
Well, we wanted to talk a little bit about sort of the intersection of politics and public health. So if you can, tell us a little bit about why you got into politics and how that sort of intersected with your healthcare journey. Representative Somani, we'll start with you.
Can I just blame Senator Liston and call it a day?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
No, that's only part of the reason I got into this. But realistically, as an OBGYN, the specialty has become increasingly political, and it shouldn't be. But in 2022, the Dobbs decision was leaked, Roe v. Wade was being overturned, and reproductive rights were coming to the State House. And as a result of that, I actually was asked to run, and like any smart person, I said no several times. I was like, no, I'm not crazy. No, I don't think this is for me. But in the end, it made sense to have somebody with expertise in reproductive rights at the State House when the legislation was coming back, as opposed to being at the federal level.
Absolutely. Senator Liston.
So I got involved a little bit earlier, towards the end of 2016, 2017, as people were really talking about things like the Affordable Care Act. And I realized that I knew a ton about it and what it did in people's lives that I hadn't been sharing. And that a lot of people that make decisions for or against different laws didn't know. So I did what I could to make my voice louder and louder, and ultimately realized that the best thing I could do to impact health outcomes was to be in the position to impact policy. I really believe that there are health impacts to pretty much all policy we deal with, not just the things that are specifically about health, but much more broadly. And so as a physician, I really wanted to take that knowledge and be as effective and as impactful as I could. And that's what brought me here.
Nice. And then are both of you still practicing and all? And how do you balance your role as a legislator with your role as a healthcare provider?
Yeah, I am still a faculty member, although I'm not speaking for my employer today. But I still do internal medicine and pediatrics as my specialty. I do hospital-based care, and I teach medical students, and I do it on nights and weekends especially. This place has a pretty irregular schedule, but it is usually daytimes, during the middle of the week. So I can move my shifts to off hours, and hopefully I make patient care a little bit better by knowing what's going on in the law. But I really think I make the law better by still having that direct connection with what people are experiencing in their lives, and the things impacting their health.
So as an obstetrician gynecologist, most of us give up obstetrics when we get older. Only because it's hard to be up in the middle of the night and then still work the next day.
Yeah.
So I gave up doing obstetrics in 2020 after 28 years. And I had actually gotten to the point where I delivered babies that I had delivered. And I thought, oh God, I'm delivering grandbabies. It's time to stop. And that was in 2020. Our practice then shifted to doing minimally invasive gynecology. So I do robotic surgeries on Thursdays and Fridays, see patients on Mondays, and then I'm here at the State House on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Our schedule is a little different than Senator Liston's because Surgeries usually take place starting at 7:30 in the morning. And typically, we're done by about 3 or 4 in the afternoon. So it's not, I can't, unless it's unscheduled, I won't be working. I'm on call on the weekends, but not actually working.
And can I just say really quick, it's really cool that you both still are out there doing it, like practicing and everything. I feel like there's a sort of, what would you call it? I guess a stereotype about politicians or people who are involved in politics here at the State House that you all just, you come up here, you do your thing, and then you go do God knows what in the after hours. But you guys are actually out there helping people both, in here and out there too. So I think that's really cool.
I think the best part of that is, as Senator Liston said, you recognize the impact that legislation has on your patients' lives. When we're here and we're hearing some of the legislation, I think, the unintended consequences are going to be terrible. Like, we need to really emphasize that down here so that patients aren't hurt when we start forming legislation or creating laws that are going to be negatively impactful.
Absolutely. So what are some of your public health priorities as a legislator? Is there anything happening in public health policy right now specifically that's most concerning to you?
For me, I think that the anti-science rhetoric and some of the legislation that is not rooted in evidence-based medicine is what is driving some of the conversations I'm having. For example, vaccines. Right now, there's a lot of these vaccine choice bills that are potentially harmful to kids. And to help people understand that, I think it helps to have a background in the history of medicine and how we got to where we are with public health. Another example that isn't actually coming to health committee, but has gone to agriculture, is fluoride in water. People who grow up in rural areas who are strictly dependent on well water have much higher disease incidences of cavities. They're more likely to have poor dentition. And that's something I think a lot of people don't realize. They think, oh my gosh, fluoride, it's too much fluoride. But the reality is it's really, really cut down on the percentage of cavities that dentists see. If you don't have good dental health, it can impact your risk for heart disease. It can impact your ability to eat solid food because you can lose your teeth. It can impact your general health because your nutrition is not good. So it's something that people don't even think about because we've had fluoride in the water for so long that it's just kind of taken for granted. And now it's being taken away. So there's a lot of that I feel like our job is to stop some of that type of legislation, more so than even sometimes creating good legislation, although they're both equally important.
Yeah, I would agree. As a pediatrician, we've been hearing the anti-vaccine story for a while. I think, unfortunately, COVID brought that out even further. And, it's important that the public realizes how critical they are and learns to trust us again and trust doctors and healthcare experts. A lot of what I work on certainly is speaking against the harmful bills. And then when I introduce legislation, it's often what I'd call around the edges, right? What can we do to help people now, knowing that our system's really complicated and it isn't, it's hard to navigate. There's a lot of changes that I think need to be made. But now I want to make sure people get the medication that they need, for their everyday life. So many people need something like insulin every single day, or if you have hemophilia, you need factor, infusions regularly, and making sure people can get that, as well as general access to health care overall, whether that's women's health, whether that's primary care doctors, whether that's making sure Medicaid can be effective and functional for people. That's a lot of the bill focus. But I started this saying that there are health impacts to all policy. Everything that you can think of that we talk about, I think, has a wellness piece to it, right? Whether you're talking about stable, affordable housing, you don't think about that as a health policy, but it has a huge impact on, wellness in someone's lifespan if they have stable home, they have educational opportunity, if they get paid a living wage, all the things that you don't always think about in the healthcare context are really big parts of public health overall.
Yeah, I think that's the other piece that from a medical perspective, like when I was in medical school, we really didn't understand the social determinants of health. And that's 80% of health is just that. whether it's racism in medicine, where you live, how many trees are in your neighborhood, do you have access to a grocery store nearby? Is there public transportation maybe to get you to your doctor's appointment? So there's so many things that we could help with legislation to improve health outcomes, not just specifically in the healthcare space, but also in all the other areas.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, who could have seen this coming? Teeth are important to health.
How do you know?
So I think the problem right now is that we're not dealing with a shared set of facts.
Yes.
And there's an interesting reel that Senator Liston sent me, but a lot of other people have sent, where there's an OBGYN saying, you know what? We should talk about this stuff in the context of Make America Healthy Again. So, when we're talking about, bacterial flora as babies are born, how do we improve that? And vitamin K shots, why don't we call it boosting their vitamin levels? There's just so many ways you can talk about it. And just like you said, who knew that fluoride in teeth could be so critical to even pregnancy? Because if you have dental infections, it can increase your risk for preterm labor.
So, question for you both. What's a typical day look like for you here at the State House?
Oh, we get to do podcasts. That's always exciting.
I don't know that there's ever typical. I think that's interesting part of it, and maybe challenge. You heard us both say, Tuesdays, Wednesdays are really the big State House days. People come from all over as representatives, right? So we're local, but other state senators and state reps may be coming from different corners of the state and may have a 3-hour drive to be here. So it's usually the middle of the week. And then once a week, we get together and have what's called session, where we vote on the bills as a whole body. And the rest of the week, we're meeting with different groups that care about issues. And it can be something like, vaccine related bill, or it could be something like the state cookie that people are coming in and really care about and are advocating for, or, there's a very wide range of issues that we deal with. So days are pretty full. And then we, sometimes get to do podcasts and share a little bit about what it's like. But there's a lot of different things going on usually.
Yeah. So I started as an advocate. So I would come down, like today I spoke to the American College of OBGYNs. They have their advocacy day. And I remember coming down here and meeting with legislators, sometimes with legislative aides. Their big emphasis, right now for why they're down here is obviously reproductive rights, because we did pass issue 1 in 2023 to protect reproductive rights, but we've had several bills recently to take some of that back. Even though they would be considered unconstitutional and challenged, there's always people trying to push things that are unconstitutional. So there's a couple of bills that would get rid of telehealth to prescribe mifepristone. There's another bill that would reinstitute the 24-hour waiting period. So those things they're coming in to talk to legislators about. We also have committees that we both serve on. I'm the ranking member for health, and then I'm on the Medicaid committee. So our committees typically meet on, like this afternoon, we'll be meeting at 4 p.m. for Medicaid. You may have heard all the, quote, waste, fraud, and abuse that's happening in Medicaid to the tune of billions of dollars, which kind of doesn't make sense, because I think if it was that high, we would have seen it a long time before an election year. But given that the big bill right now is to address that, and I think we say it all in one sentence, like it's a run-on word, but fraud is intentionally misguiding or taking money from the Medicaid system with the intent to steal money, basically. Whereas most of what we see probably is waste and abuse, where Medicaid dollars are spent in a wasteful manner, or are being misused for things that maybe shouldn't be covered. So I think we all agree that there is some of that happening, but not to the extent that we're hearing from some of the national news media that's really pushing this agenda. Again, Medicaid is so important for people who are working poor, or people who are part of the gig economy, where they're working 2 and 3 jobs, but none of them offers them stable health insurance, or they make too much or too little to fit into the guidelines for health insurance. So I think we have to remember that when we're addressing all of these issues in Medicaid.
And I guess I'd even clarify, most of what we see in Medicaid spending is appropriately spent on health care for those in need, right? So small edge cases where there are places where it's not as efficient and as effective. And I think we all look at ways that we can make sure that that money is being used to help people.
Now, this is a local podcast. We like being a Franklin County focused podcast. So we've got a really good question here that Zach Watson wrote and it's, what are some of your favorite things about Franklin County?
Well, and we should, for the listeners out there, both the representative and the senator actually represent us here in Franklin County. So just wanted to add that.
Absolutely. So what's your favorite thing about Franklin County? Not to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
So I love the fact that we can compete with bigger cities when it comes to the culture and arts and foodie restaurants. We actually have James Beard nominated chefs here in town. So that's super. And Beth knows this about me. I'm like a total foodie. And then culture, when people talk about like, New York and Chicago, and I'm like, we have our own Broadway series here. And we have places like Shadowbox Live, and we have, the Ballet Met. So we have so much in an affordable city, where you can come here. You can. The negative is that it's not a walking, easily public transportation type of city. When you go to, some of the other big cities, you can just hop on, whether it's the subway or the train or, bus, you can get around really easily walking. And that's something that I think we need to work on here in Franklin County.
But policy has the
Yes.
ability to fix. Should we make that choice at the State House? I agree. Although my favorite part is the trails. Ohio has amazing trails. Franklin County has tons of trails. Easy to walk up and down the Olenchangee Trail for miles and forget maybe that you're in a city while we still have all the conveniences and culture of it. And clearly that's important for public health, right?
Yes.
It's
So
big and it's small, right?
Yeah,
It's the best of both
exactly.
worlds.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I was going to ask you this as a follow-up, but I think it fits perfectly with this question. You were talking about how you're a foodie, right?
Yeah.
So what's some of your favorite like food places? Everyone wants to know, the audience and I.
We're demanding it.
We're demanding that you tell us what are some of your favorite spots.
Oh my. Uh-oh. I got to think about this one.
Anita knows everybody and all the restaurants. Sorry. Representative Somani is very knowledgeable about all the restaurants, and I suspect is concerned about picking
offending.
Yes.
Offending, so many that you don't. Wow. Okay.
I mean, again, when the Columbus Monthly does like the best of the best, and they separate it out into like categories of like Indian, Mexican, every sort of ethnic food, and then like fast food or hot dogs or best hamburgers or whatever. I think it's because you don't want to upset anybody, so you want to be like, let's give everybody an award or
Give them
let's
their
give
own
everyone
category.
a prize.
Yeah.
I just picture you having your own specialty booth at all the good restaurants in town, and you're just like, listen, I got a good thing going here. I can't mess this up. No, I love it. I love it. And then
wait, the other question for
Yes.
people who are local is Jeni's or Graeter's?
Ooh, that's I go for different reasons.
Yes.
Each. Again, I said this we were talking about pizza before the podcast started recording, and I said Donato's to me is it's almost its own thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that way about if I am going for the idea of ice cream, I'm probably going to go Graeter's, but Jeni's like I specifically say to myself, I want Jeni's specifically, not just I want ice cream, I want Jeni's. Do you have a thought, Andrew?
I don't. I will eat whatever ice cream you put in front of me. So
that's a great answer. Also,
I'll be the middle of the road one here.
What about you, Senator Liston? Do you have a preference in the ice cream war?
I do, but I'm afraid of saying it. You guys all are walking the middle line. I'm Graeter's. I think Jeni's has great flavors and they're always interesting, but I would agree that when you're thinking of like homey ice cream, I'm Graeter's.
Those chunks of chocolate, you can't
go wrong. You can't beat them.
Tell me about it. And you get I don't know if Jeni says a similar thing, but at Graeter's you have the birthday rewards and you get the free birthday sundae. Can't be beaten.
Sounds dangerous.
Yes. And then so Senator Liston, you brought up, I wanted to take it back to trails and everything. Do you have like a favorite trail in Franklin County or favorite places in nature to go?
I love the Olentangy Trail. I mean, it's just so nice. You can go so far. There's so many places that, that are like treed. And although you're in the middle of the city and you can get there from most places, but you can still, pause and go around Antrim Lake. And
so during COVID, the Olentangy Trail got super crazy. We discovered downtown the Audubon Trail that like starts right downtown. You can catch it. And then right now, I think parts of it are under construction, but it ends up near the Sayada Audubon Nature Center. And there's like the climbing wall there. There's like a whole park for kids there. And the other one that I think is, have you been to the Darby Creek where you can see the bison on the trail? And again, you're just like, wait, I'm like in the city, but I'm seeing bison right outside, like right there, right as close as you are. Luckily, there's a fence in between. But yeah, I mean, I agree. Like the Olentangy Trail is perfect. You can walk out your door and be on it. But if you want to drive a little bit further, you can find some great trails that allow you to see bison right on the side or other, nature trails. Like there's the one in Dublin that has all those birds. I'm not a bird watcher, so I don't know, but I hear all the bird sounds.
Yeah, we had Franklin County Metro Parks on the podcast.
Yeah, shout out to our friends at the Franklin County Metro Parks who would love that you just brought them up.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much to do in Franklin County, outside, in nature, good for your health.
Well, and yes, I wanted to bring it back to health. When I actually just got back from a wilderness medicine conference, which was really cool. And we certainly had lectures on the impact of being around nature on overall health and longevity. So just being outside around things. And then, of course, sunlight. We all know that, some exposure to sunlight helps in a lot of different ways, but overall mortality is decreased with those trails for a lot of different reasons. So good job, parks.
Is that where you're hanging out with the monkeys over there or chimpanzees?
No, that was Indonesia, actually.
Very cool.
Whoa. Yes.
The corner picture there.
Yes. There, just so the listeners know, we are in Senator Liston's office, and she has a photo with her. And what are the types of monkeys? Do you remember?
Capuchin?
That's what I thought. I didn't want to mislabel them, but they looked like capuchin monkeys. So yes, with capuchin monkeys, I believe.
Yeah.
I think you can see those at the Columbus Zoo also.
Yes.
Not sitting on your lap, but certainly you can see them behind.
So I would recommend if you're in captivity that you use PPE. Just to make sure that people are not doing this in other settings.
Yes.
So sort of wrapping things up, how can public health and healthcare continue to align and support each other here in Franklin County?
I think one of the things that's going to be critical moving forward is one of the things I said earlier. We're living in silos right now, and we need to create a common language and trust so that patients or people look at the Franklin County Department of Health as someone they can trust for facts, for information when they're concerned about their health. Same thing here at the Statehouse. We need to always emphasize evidence-based medicine. We can't fall into the trap of just dismissing some of these bills and going, this is crazy. We really need to be addressing it, and addressing people's concerns because, again, some of what the MAHA movement says makes sense. When you think about it, whole foods, processed foods, there is a difference. And nutrition makes a huge difference in your energy levels, how you feel, your risk for cancer, when you think about different things, different additives. So we can't just dismiss it. We have to embrace it in the sense that we have to address people's fears when it comes to traditional medicine versus what they're hearing out, from their community or from their friends, and bring all that back to our ability to make good legislation.
Yeah, that's the crux of it, right? I think we have to acknowledge what people are experiencing, which are real challenges out in the world and in the healthcare system, and communicating with those that may be considered experts. So the more we can do that, I think the more effective we can be for people in communities.
Love it. Okay, so I did think of this question on the fly. I'm sorry that it was you have not seen it, but it just got me thinking when both of you were talking about practicing in medicine, and I said, it's interesting. You both come from medical backgrounds into this background, and I think what to me connects sort of medicine and politics is, God, what is it like to be a woman in both of those fields? Past traditionally male-dominated fields, whether it's what your lens is sort of as a woman in both medicine and the Statehouse, or what it's like to be a woman in both of these fields, or anything. If you have, or if you want to even give a message to people who are raising, young women at home or things of that nature. So I just wanted to know, I think it's really inspirational that you both are not only here, but again, I think it's so cool that you practice, that you continue to practice out in fields outside of the Statehouse and everything. So I just didn't know if you wanted to sort of speak from the lens of what it is to be a woman, or to speak to young women, I guess, as well.
So I'm going to take the role of the elder. I started my training. I was in medical school in the mid 80s, and then started training between 88 and 92. And I feel that in a lot of ways, our country has gone backwards when it comes to women in positions of authority or positions of influence, talking about breaking the glass ceiling. There was far more of that in the 90s than we're seeing today. And I think that has been harmful. And part of it, I think, again, if you look through history, you had, the Phyllis Schlafly's of the world that emphasized the need to be a good mom and a homemaker and a caretaker and, raise your children and be subservient to your husband, while being out there trying to influence legislation and take things back when it came to reproductive rights. Today, we have a similar thing. And I talked to some young women about this. They're like, yeah, these trad wives are really trying to emphasize, let's all sit at home and sew our clothes and bake our bread and raise our kids on the farm. And they're like, that just seems so artificial. I'm like, it is. I said, that's a business. They're modeling something for people that they are making money as influencers. I said, that's just the same thing that we saw back in the 70s. It's just a way to emphasize a role that maybe most women may not be comfortable in. I said, but when I was growing up, the concept was like the Virginia Slims ad, you can have it all, you can do both. And that's kind of how I was raised. I have the perfect Indian family. I have a daughter who's a doctor and a son who's an engineer, which is the stereotypical, I can say it because I'm from India, which is a stereotypical family. But again, my son is very comfortable in the kitchen. My daughter is a physician. And I think that we have to get back to not only modeling for women that they can do both, but also for our sons. I think in the process of being so much about women's rights, we've forgotten that men can do the same roles that women do. That it's not like my husband used to get really annoyed when people would be like, oh, you're babysitting your kids. He's like, no, I'm taking care of my kids. Yeah. And I think we have to understand that men can do the same things women can do. Women can do the same things men can do. You may not be able to have babies. That may be one thing you can't do, but in general, I think that raising young men to feel like that part of their identity is okay, that, if they choose to stay at home because their wife is the one who's the breadwinner, that doesn't mean you're babysitting your kids. It means that you are taking an active role in raising them. So that to me is more important than as a woman saying, I'm here at the Statehouse and I'm in a position of leadership and I'm in a position in the hospital of leadership, when we have to make sure that the next generation has that same opportunity.
So many different ways to approach this question.
I know, it's pretty broad. I made it broad.
It's big. I think drawing on what Rep. Somani said about, there's a generation that were raised that thought, hey, we can do it all. I think the next step has been, we don't have to do it all. And people have the ability to make choices within all of the different possibilities, whether that is, staying home with kids. My husband was a stay-at-home dad for all of our children's childhood, which was surprising to people, but obviously it, was a valid choice that worked for us. So I think that's been the next step. I do think there's different places where people feel that and understand that more than others. I think in medicine, people generally take the background and experience that you have as being the starting point of the interaction. What I mean is I'm a doctor of internal medicine and pediatrics. Everyone knows what that means in terms of knowledge and experience and uses that to judge what I say. Whereas when you're in the State House, there's such a wide variety of different backgrounds and experiences that you kind of all start from no expectation. And people aren't going to just trust me because I have, background and degrees in some field, right? Everyone it's democratic, but that brings out the stereotypes that people might hold a little bit more, right? If I work on a bill that's generally more related to women's issues, it's a little easier for people that have more stereotypes in their brain to accept that I would, of course, be working on bills about moms and babies rather than tax policy. So I think sometimes it's important to understand where people are, just like in health, right? Just like in public health, you meet people where they are and their general expectation and work with them, knowing that their expectations may not match yours or your reality. This is a really roundabout answer. Sorry.
It's a good answer. I made it very broad and not easy. But I wanted you all to sort of pick your own adventure, if you will, or pick your own lane that you wanted to get into was more of my thing. But I think those are both great answers.
Communication's important.
Absolutely. And meeting people where they are. Representative Anita Somani and Senator Beth Liston, thank you both so much for coming on the podcast today.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Health is Real podcast from Franklin County Public Health. Want to chime in with your thoughts? Email us at fcph@franklincountyohio.gov. And did you know our Recover for Life campaign is a resource for people interested in substance use recovery in Franklin County? We know addiction is a disease impacting thousands of people in our area, and we're helping our community recover. Visit franklincountyrrecovers.com to learn more.